Okay, it's time for starting with AI. And what better way to start off the new year than finding ways that we can do the things that we want to do faster and better? So today's coverage of starting with AI isn't just a great way to start your new year, but it's also a way to start creating because there's so many wonderful things that we can do with AI. I want to show you some of the wonderful and amazing tools that are available. We're going to talk about the tools. We're going to talk about what they can do to help us and why this is such a big deal to me. In particular, I want to share my story with you. This is where I've been. This is where we're going. So, look, here's the thing. A white page is a very big problem. What do I mean? Because it's blank. You have nothing to start from. When you sit down to work on a new project or start a new thing, it can be really hard to get started. I don't know about you, but for me, that white page can be pretty intimidating. Now, it also represents many, many possibilities. And I think for some of us, that is precisely the problem. We don't know where to start because there are too many options available. But here is what's really cool. AI can actually help us to solve the problems in many different ways. Because the reality is we have ideas and sometimes we just need a little push. Or other times we don't have ideas and we need a good place to start. One of the ways that we've been talking about this generative AI revolution that we're in the middle of is thinking about it in terms of a capability that is auto-completion. Now, many of you are familiar with the texting capabilities that we've had on our mobile devices for a number of years. In fact, a few years ago, there was a lot of memes on the internet that talked about autocomplete failures, situations where the automation and helping you to fill out the text message that you wanted to share with a friend did something that you didn't really want it to do. And some people have said, well, AI, generative AI specifically, is just a fancy autocomplete. But I need to let you know that it's not. In fact, it's a lot more than that. Now, we could go to the other end of the spectrum and talk about how big it is. And it's not possible to comprehend what it can do. But here's the reality. You don't need to know or comprehend what it is to start using it, because there are so many wonderful tools that we have at our disposal. Without understanding all of the details, the number of parameters, or the various tools, you just need to know that it can help you. There are tools like Stable Diffusion that help us to generate images. There are tools that allow us to write a piece of text and it will create an image based on our desire to create that thing. So sometimes you just need the spark of an idea, and there are so many incredible ways that you can generate that spark of creativity. So let's talk through some of those ways right now. I'm a PC user. I've been a Windows subject matter expert inside an enterprise corporation for well over a decade. So this is a place where I work and play, and it is where I start from as a person that uses the computer on a daily basis. And one of the cool things that's happened is Microsoft has released and is continuing to iterate and improve the release of their CoPilot software. Now, on my computer system, I actually have the CoPilot pre-release version installed via an update to my system that gives me direct access to CoPilot even outside of the browser. So I have this sidebar that you can see here that lets me control and work with the artificial intelligence tools just off my desktop. If that's not your forte or you don't have the preview installed, all you need to do is go to copilot.microsoft.com and you get exactly the same functionality within your browser. And as you can see, I'm using this tool set to do AI work. Now here's some tips about using this. The first is they give you a couple of different options for how you want to interact with the chatbot. And the default when you open the page is more balanced. You can also use the more precise, which is going to give you much more predictable results, but it's not very creative. And for me, the white page process is also part of the creative process because I haven't quite figured out what I want to do. In this case, going the more creative route also gives you the added boost of leveraging a more advanced generative AI model. It's known as GPT-4, and it was created by OpenAI, and it is available through the Bing search and through CoPilot. So I pretty much tend to live in this more creative space. And that's where I start my journey in terms of working with these tools. Now, Microsoft has basically provided us with a tool that allows us to work in all of these different areas. They have their Microsoft Designer, which is how you can generate images. And if you're not already familiar, you can go to ping.com and use that as your search engine, and it also has the Bing chat option as well. So you don't have to be on the Windows platform to take advantage of these Microsoft tools that are available. They're really a great way to get you started if you haven't started playing with these tools at all yet. But I'm going to continue down this road of how you can use AI to really jumpstart the process and solve the white page problem. Now, one of the tools that I've been working with for a few months now, and I'm beginning to develop a real affinity toward it, is a program called Gamma.app. And it is a website that provides the ability to create presentations. And I do a lot of extemporaneous discussions. I share information and build presentations on a regular basis. So today, to put together the information for what I'm sharing with you right now, I pulled up Gamma.app and I had it help me build a presentation to share with you. Because again, the way that we are able to get ahead is to find ways to solve these sort of creative generation problems and eliminate the I'm just starting from a blank page. What can I do? Gamma.app has really helped me with that, and it'll also give you an idea for some of the things that are really possible using these tools. So using Gamma.app, what I did was I provided a prompt and I said, what are some things that I can do with AI to help me get started? And it provided an outline. I played with that outline a little bit, and I'm not doing that live for you now because it does take a few iterations to really get it to a level that I'm happy with. But what it came up with was a really great starting point for me to begin in sharing the message that I wanted to put together for you today in this live experience. And if at any point you have questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to drop into that chat and send it over, and I'll address it during the broadcast today. But what are some benefits of AI for getting started? Well, it's really a helping hand to us in a number of ways because it can help us jumpstart that creative process. And a lot of times we're not quite sure what it is that we want to say. And it is through that iterative development of the message, thinking about the problem and what we want to say, what we're interested in, what we want to show or tell others in the process comes out of that back and forth. And you can use AI to help you identify what it is that you want to say. The generative AI, the autocomplete, if you will, helps you sort of fill out or continue those thoughts that you've already had. Because most of the time when we sit down to do some work, we have some idea of what it is that we want to accomplish. For today's broadcast, it was really, I wanted to help you get started by using AI to do that. So that was the initial thought that I had. And I've continually iterated and developed that idea over the last several days to put together this presentation for you. Now, one of the other key benefits of using AI is it allows you to get started faster. Instead of staring at the white page for extended long periods of time, you can just start with an idea using that brainstorming, using that creative engine to put out some ideas. You might want to just simply throw the idea out into a generative AI text prompt and see what it spits out. Maybe there's something that catches your interest or is an idea you already had and you just needed to be reminded that that's where you were. But the other cool thing is that because it gives you a jump start, you can also improve how quickly you can get in to further developing that idea because you can use multiple different modes of generation to get you there. In artificial intelligence, generative AI discussions, we've talked a lot about this concept of multimodal. That is both text and images and the addition of sound, the introduction of video. There are many different ways that we can connect with, create, and interact with these AI tools. And that is yet another key way. Now, for me, and how I found myself really deeply interested in generative AI, is my work in innovation. Anytime we can inspire ideas for each other, collaborate, and really jumpstart that what's possible thinking, AI can really help us with that, because it's going to bring forth ideas that we perhaps haven't had. Whether or not you agree with those ideas is really largely irrelevant at the starting phase, because you don't have to take what it gives you. It's simply a way to generate and jumpstart the process of creation. And when we talk about jumpstarting that process, there's a couple of different key things that we need to really talk about. And the first is this idea of brainstorming. In the innovation business, we are frequently trying to find ways to get people to think outside of their daily mode of operation. Because the reality is, most often, especially with very regimented processes, at some point you might have said, we really shouldn't do it this way, or what if we, or it would be interesting if. Those kinds of statements really help us to jumpstart and connect with thoughts that we've had, connect with ideas that are out there. People that are avid readers and constantly exploring different areas tend to be better at these brainstorming things, because they're bringing in external content that is not typically introduced. And AI is really great at that, because these large language models really know a little bit about many different things. And so using them for idea generation is really a top tier use case for AI. Now, we also have this concept of automated prototyping. What does that mean? Well, when we are trying to put together a thing, whatever that thing might be, whether it is a presentation like I'm showing you now, or if you're developing an application, you're designing a new process, you want to get started with something. Now, for me, what that often looks like is I just need something to argue with, because I have an opinion, but I haven't found a good way to elicit that opinion. And by using an automated prototype of a presentation, a draft of a message, the creation of a user interface, we can do all kinds of amazing things with the AI to give us something to start from. And then the ideas, for me at least, will typically flow from, well, that's interesting, but I don't like this, and I want to change that, and let's move this around or go with a different idea. It gives you a place to start from. And oftentimes that is the really most powerful capability of AI. It doesn't have to be 100% right. In fact, you might even argue, and I certainly have seen this argument in the space of late, the idea that a hallucination by an artificial intelligence answer, something that is not accurate but is very convincingly wrong, well, if you're in the creative process, that hallucination really isn't a major problem, because you're at the very beginning of the process. And so if it is wrong, it still might spark your imagination or give you an idea to start from. Now, there is an entirely different spectrum of use cases that we can use that really does require accurate information. But for today's purposes, we're just talking about getting started. So we can actually completely ignore the hallucination issue, because we're just talking in generalities. We're trying to get ideas. We're trying to get things started. Now, the third case here is design visualization. Now, what does that mean? I really enjoy creating art with generative AI. There are so many possibilities. And look, I build a lot of presentations. I've spent a lot of my time over the last couple of years building these presentations. And it really is a challenge to find art to illustrate your idea and help others really touch their creative side and think outside of their daily process. Design visualizations help us with that, not only in terms of a designed piece of media, but also in terms of imagery, just invoking that creative side. We can use AI to visualize that, and we can conceptualize things outside of just simply written text on a page. So these are some really great ways for us to get started. And when we talk about using AI to support that creation process, there are three ways that I want to really call out to you before we dive into the hands-on portion of the discussion. Now, when you're generating content, you typically have an idea. It can help you jumpstart the creation of that idea, but it can also help you continue to iterate and modify that idea. Many tools that have adopted generative AI as a part of their capabilities include this back and forth iteration. Now, if you're a familiar user to generative AI and the text solutions, you might be well familiar with the concept of chat, where you introduce an idea, it gives you a response, and you go back and forth. That is a form of automated content generation. Now, whether or not you click the copy this and you take it over to your application of choice, it is a way that you can iterate through the process. But as these tools are being integrated into existing applications, they're making that friction go away. So instead of it simply being a copy and paste of a huge block of text, you can actually, in the moment, grab a bit of text, generate an image, update or edit your existing prose. So the automated content creation process is more than just simply starting with the idea, but it's also helping you as you go. It's helping you improve or simplify or expand. If you're writing a significantly lengthy piece of text, you can have the AI help you in generating the framework of that text, the outline of what it is that you want to build, and then progressively enhance and build out that outline on a paragraph by paragraph, line by line, or even word by word association. And that generative autocompletion can start at the large macro side of things and go lower and lower until you get to a point where it really does become a part of what you're trying to build. Now, when we talk about solo collaboration, that's a little bit different, because oftentimes you have an idea and you're not quite sure if that idea makes a great deal of sense. Well, you can use AI in that back and forth chat basis to evaluate the idea. Now, certainly getting started with the prompt, with the core idea, and getting some feedback on it is the best way to do things. And we can improve the way that we have that interaction. One of the challenges you might have experienced today if you've used these tools is the AI seems very eager to help, and oftentimes it tries to be encouraging rather than derogatory, because that is historically a problem that we've had with chatbots. Sometimes that may make you feel a little bit like it's a little too encouraging. In fact, it wants to tell you you have a good idea or that that's interesting, and maybe you want it to be a little bit more critical. Well, there are things that we can do from a prompting perspective that allow us to ask for it to be a little bit more creative in terms of how it's responding to our ideas. So we can not only get fast feedback, but get feedback that can help us improve an existing idea, find the flaws in our argument. And that is really what's great about this generative AI technology, because it's largely done by textual prompt. You can tell it what you want. If you want it to be more critical of your ideas, you can simply ask for that. Now, there are structured tools that we can use to improve that, and I've already got some videos out on YouTube that you could check out right now that provide some ideas. Connect with emotions to improve the answers. But just simply in terms of getting feedback, you don't have to get in line. You don't have to go have a meeting. You don't have to schedule time on the calendar. You can take that idea, go straight to a tool like ChatGPT or CoPilot, drop the idea in there and say, give me some feedback, and it's going to give you an answer. So you can quickly improve. In fact, studies have shown that the faster you can get feedback, the more productive you can be with the time that you spend on something. So again, not only is this eliminating the white page problem, it's helping you improve the work much faster. And speaking of improving the work much faster, you can spend less time editing. There's so many great AI tools that are out there, and one of my favorites right now isn't one that we're typically talking about in the generative art world. So I'm going to show you a little bit about that tool. But the reality is that AI tools can help us with the editing. Not only can they help us with written word editing and finding the right word or expressing the thoughts in the right way, if you're in the image editing business, boy, there are some amazing things that have happened in the last year. And I have to admit, I've been really impressed with the work that Adobe has done to integrate AI generation tools into the existing tools that they have. I have friends and relatives. My wife, in fact, is a graphic designer, and she's been using the Adobe suite of tools for many, many years. In fact, the very early version of these creative tools, she was working with those, and I've had an opportunity to watch her use these tools, and honestly, I can't hold a candle to the work that she's able to do in using Illustrator and Photoshop. But the reality is, with the advancement of these tools and the integration of generative AI, I'm able to do more than I was ever before. In fact, things that I was traditionally going to her and asking for help, I'm able to do more of that because mostly what I want is very simple, and the tools are extending my reach. You can now create all sorts of wonderful art and edit that art. There's a great capability called generative fill, which you can take an existing image of a person, cut out around that person, and actually generate what's going on around that person with generative fill. So if you are editing and taking something that already exists and trying to improve it, AI is really incredibly useful for that. Now, I'm not going to show you the Adobe suite today because I want to focus on a few things that I've been using it for, and I think I can best tell the story with those capabilities that I'm using today. So let's dive into some of those hands-on things. Now, when we talk about prototyping, this is really what I want to start with because I've been a software engineer, computer engineer for really my entire career. In fact, in the early days of me taking my first job, I was the computer management guy at a small clinic that saw over 100 patients a day. They had an electronic medical record system, and they were using the computers to manage all of those medical records. And I was the guy that went around and fixed the computers when they weren't working right. And that really has been an experience because there's always things that need to be fixed. Some things need more help than others. But one of the tools that I found very early on in this generative revolution was a tool called GitHub CoPilot. And GitHub Copilot is very much connected to the product of GitHub. If you haven't come across GitHub and you're writing code, boy, are you in for some exciting times. But GitHub Copilot basically provides the tooling that allows you to write source code and scripts and plug it into the process that you're already doing. For me, oftentimes I know what I want to do. I even have some pretty good ideas about how I want to do it. And GitHub Copilot really enables that journey because it will help you by asking you what it is that you want to accomplish and actually providing and writing from examples the source code that solves that problem. Now, one of the biggest challenges with this is, again, it gives you a very good starting point. It may not be the right answer. It may not be a complete answer. In fact, many times the answer it gives you is something that looks right, but it doesn't quite do what it's supposed to. So there are challenges in using these tools to get started. You still have to engage your brain, but this has really changed my life in terms of doing side projects. Oftentimes I'll pick up some electronics, I'll do a side project with those electronics, and I'm writing brand new source code for something that I haven't worked on in quite a long time, and it helps me pick that project up and get started much more quickly. Now, this is a paid subscription tool. I'm paying about $100 a year to have access to GitHub Copilot for myself. And I'm not coding every day, to be totally honest, but when I am coding, it dramatically improves the speed at which I can create something new or edit something existing. So from a prototype perspective, it's really powerful just in terms of writing source code. Now, maybe you're not a person that is writing code, you're not working with generating an application or building something that specifically uses the computer. And look, I totally understand that. But if you are, you need to know about OpenAI's cookbooks. Because if you're building any kind of solution using these tools, people are working with these tools on a regular basis, and they are providing patterns and solutions that help you to do that. So if you're familiar with a particular tool like Node.js, you can go out to the OpenAI cookbook at cookbook.openai.com and see some of the things that are being built. So not only do you have an opportunity to use AI to help you create the thing, you can also use those recipes that people are building to use AI to plug into their existing solution. So it's like a double win. You're not only using AI to solve the problem, you're using AI to solve the problem. And that's really fun. I like that sort of AI inception. But there's a couple of others that I want to talk through and show you. When we talk about capabilities around art, there are many tools that allow us to create something. And one that I came across here just a couple of days ago, Google has all sorts of wonderful experiments. If you aren't familiar with it, Google is actually responsible for really kicking off this generative AI capability. They wrote a seminal paper called Attention is All You Need that is really the foundation of all of these generative models for editing and working with text. From an art standpoint, they've been working with these tools to generate wonderful and interesting things for many years. So Google is absolutely a part of this discussion, and it would be a mistake not to talk about the things that they've built. But this is kind of a fun experiment that Google has put together. It is literally an experiment. It is a tool that lets you create a poem postcard. And it is a driven, designed experience that lets you choose the kind of poem that you want to write. And we're going to write about using AI to be more creative. And we're going to see what it comes up with. I can also choose from a series of artwork. So not only am I able to write the poetry, I'm able to select from the various art options that are available, art pieces that you may or may not be familiar with, and it will create a poem to go along with that piece of art, and then you can print off this amazing piece of work that you built in just a few minutes using AI. But let's keep going, because art is so much bigger than just using classic art or writing a poem. We're talking about being able to design and develop solutions. So let's go back over to my other desktop system where we started off the conversation with CoPilot and look at Microsoft Designer. Now, I have really enjoyed using Microsoft Designer for my YouTube channel. Oftentimes, I need a thumbnail that helps people understand what the video is about. What's great about Microsoft Designer is I can go in here and use it to create and generate images. Now, the other tool that I use a great deal is Midjourney, and Midjourney is constantly iterating and developing. You have to use Discord to get started with that tool today, and I really think that from a user interface standpoint, Microsoft has done a very good job of bringing to capability this image creator. It's also connected with OpenAI's DALL-E 3, which lets you do some really amazing artwork that includes logical text in the image. And that's one of the things that's been very much more challenging with a tool like Midjourney. Anything with text tends to come out garbled. But you can generate an image that includes literal text. So we can create a brand new image. And again, as we're illustrating this idea of AI and creativity, AI helps me be creative. An open horizon full of possibilities. I like mountain valleys, and I like sunrises. So we're going to put those elements into the prompt. And I just gave it some words. This is not something I sat down and spent a lot of time to put together. It's just what comes off the top of my mind as I'm trying to be creative. And when you give it these ideas, it's going to go put something together. Now, you may not like what it comes back with. And oftentimes, what I get back is less than what I was really looking for. But it's going to touch a nerve, right? I'm either going to say, wow, that is amazing, and it exceeds my expectations. Okay, I can use that, or wow, that's really not what I want. And if it's not what I want, I can go back and start over. But maybe there's something in that response that sparks another idea. And with a tool like this, you're basically able to put together something and get an immediate answer. And even if it's not the answer that you were looking for, you're going to have a reaction to it, and you can take advantage of that. In this case, it gave us one image back. And what I really like about a tool like Midjourney is that you get multiple responses, multiple answers back to work from. But just getting a single answer in just a few moments is really an incredible capability. And you saw how quickly it put together this response. So make sure you go out and work with designer.microsoft.com if you have the ability to do that through your subscription with Microsoft's tools. If you don't have that subscription, you don't even need to have a subscription. You can go to copilot.microsoft.com and you can tell it that that's what you want to do. So if we go back, I can even pull this identical prompt and I can put it into my conversation with Copilot. And I can say, create an image of, and I can put it in quotes. So now it knows that I want to create an image. And when I do that, what it's going to do is it's going to go out there and initiate the connection with the tool that generates those images. And as you see here, it's giving me a textual response, and it's going to take that prompt I gave it and it's going to generate an image. And this tool is available to anyone. You only need a Microsoft account to begin using this. I recommend you do it with the account because you want to have history. Oftentimes you'll do something and you come back to it at a later point. And it's really handy to have that history where you can pull it up. So in real time, once again, it is generating an image for us. And if we wait for it and see here, look, it even gave us 4 answers to work from. Let me pull the screen back here so you can see it. We can look at each of these generated images. Oh, looks like we've had some sort of a service problem. So look, real time, you never know what's going to happen. But you can actually see each of these 4 images and you can choose which one that you want to use. As you can see here, it's using Image Creator from Designer to generate those answers. But sometimes maybe you don't even need to be generating an idea. You just want to browse. Well, I've talked about this a little bit before. If you go to lexica.art, this is another image generation utility. The default view of lexica.art is for it to share with you the showcase of some of the images that have been created with the tool. Sometimes you just need a bit of inspiration. You can browse through these images and perhaps it provides an idea of something that interests you or jumpstarts your imagination so that you can build something that's interesting. The other really cool thing about a tool like Lexica Art is not only does it let you see the image, you can look at and review the prompts that were used to create that image. So this is a really great solution. If you are getting started in using these tools to create art, maybe you need inspiration, maybe you need some ideas of what the prompts can be, and this can be really useful in identifying how to get started. You can also use Lexica's Aperture to generate an image, just like I did a moment ago with the Bing tool using CoPilot. You can do exactly the same thing here. All you have to do is provide them with an account, give them your email address, and you can describe your image, hit generate, and it will create it for you in the same way. It uses a different foundational image for generating those images. So you have to understand that they are going to have different capabilities. They have different foundations. But at the end of the day, if you're just looking for a way to get started with image generation, it's a great way to do it. Another great tool that I just want to quickly mention is Leonardo.ai. They have been building up their capabilities. They're foundationally based upon Stable Diffusion with some proprietary things that they've added. They've got a lot of great capabilities. This is a partial free offering, so there's a lot you can do without having to pay absolutely any money whatsoever. And then they enable capabilities beyond that. If you want to build a specific set of models for designing something in particular, they even give you the ability to create your own models by feeding it some baseline images. I've had a lot of fun playing with Leonardo.ai, and something that they recently introduced is a brand new capability that lets you integrate and actually create moving images using their tool. And speaking of moving images, I recently began to play with a new tool that lets you generate video clips. And this is what we're going to see a lot more of over the coming year. Using a textual prompt, it will create a 3 to 5 second video clip of what you describe. And these are really fun and amazing to look at and think about. And the richness of what we're already able to create today is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I mean, what an incredible tool. And this is only going to get better. So if you're just looking for some ways to get started, to generate some ideas, we have some really amazing opportunities in front of us. And if I go back to the presentation, we've just talked about art and code. And, we could do a live coding example with you today, but I want to go back to the thing that I spend the most time on, and that is working with chat. There are two really cool things that I need to show you, and then a couple of others that we can talk a little bit about. When we talk about generating new text, there's a couple of tools that have really come a long way. Now, we talked a few minutes ago about how Google has really been at the forefront of these technologies, and they are working really hard to be relevant to where we are today. They have released Bard as really a major answer to tools like ChatGPT. Now, one of the principal complaints that I myself have had around using Bard is that it tends to hallucinate quite a bit more often than a tool like ChatGPT, and that is really based upon the models. And depending on your use of the tool, this is a bigger problem or not. Now, most often, if you're using tools like ChatGPT for research, getting a hallucination can be very problematic. But today we're talking about starting. We're talking about being creative. And I really like what Google has built with their Bard tool because they give you some really great places to start, some suggestions, and if we're using it to start, those hallucinations are really a lot less of a factor. Now, there's been some really interesting developments of late around the evaluation of Google's capabilities here. And the one that I saw just a few days ago was that as people are reviewing the text that comes out of these tools, if they're given a blind test of which of these do you like more, what we're discovering is that Google is actually doing a very good job of identifying text that people like to read. In fact, for me, often when I'm working on writing something, I'm not using ChatGPT to develop that writing. I might be doing it for trying to understand what I want the outline to look like or for learning about something new. But if I'm writing, I tend to use a different model. Lately, what I've been really very affectionate toward in terms of my writing style has been Claude 2. I like the writing style that I get out of Claude 2, so I've been using that for things when I'm doing larger amounts of writing, even sometimes just capturing my ideas. I use Claude 2 as my default configuration in Perplexity. And if you're not using perplexity.ai for your search, let me tell you, this is an amazing tool. It has become my go-to default. It really is an amazing tool. And if you're interested in that, you might want to check out the website that I have for AI mistakes. If you go to perplexity.aimistakes.com, you can get a referral code to Perplexity. Look, if you like it, go for it. You don't need to use it because I recommend it. I'm just telling you what I use every day. And I've been using Bard a lot more often lately, playing with things. And I was doing some coding examples just here recently. It was helping me write some code playing with one of my Arduino devices. So I'm finding that this is becoming more useful in terms of talking about things. And here's a great example. I was looking for ways that I can share these stories around generative AI with you. And look at the great answers. I gave it a very simple prompt, but this is a pretty deep response. And it gave me some links to some other resources and provided a really good jumping off point. And what's interesting is that not only does Bard generate those responses, it actually gives me a couple of variations of that response as well. So they're providing not only a good response, but multiple different ways to think about that. So if you haven't had a chance to use Bard, especially for getting started, if it has to be something that is, bona fide research, Bard may not be the right answer for you. It is going to give you some links and some places to start. But I'm not quite all the way there in using Bard for everyday research, but certainly for creating something new, definitely go and check that out. It's something that is probably worth your time. Now, there are many tools that have incorporated these generative AI tools. One that I had in my bookmarks for improving your writing, communicating more clearly, is this tool called deepl.com. You can type in your text and it will help you to correct it. So as we're looking at not only how do you generate that initial response, but how do you improve what you've already built, DeepL might be a solution for you. But for me, every day, it's Grammarly. And Grammarly is a great tool because I can spend a lot less time editing. It really helps me improve my writing. Look, I don't know what happened early on in my career, but I have really been challenged with passive voice, and Grammarly helps me correct that in my writing. I can completely eliminate the passive voice in my regular writing. But did you know, with that premium subscription of Grammarly, they actually give you some generative AI tools. So if I go into Grammarly and I just create a brand new document, we're going to talk about starting with AI, and I can come over here to the generative AI button, and I can click that, and it provides me a nice little box. So I can tell it what I want to do. Let's generate some ideas for a blog post, and we're going to write about how to use AI to help you start faster and write better. And let's see what it comes up with. Now, it's going to go out there and it's going to give us an outline, and we can just click insert. It's going to drop that text immediately into what I'm working with, and I can use this. I can begin writing. You may wish to enhance your writing. Oh, a little keyboard flub there. You may wish to make your writing better. AI can help. And here's what's great. Not only can it create that text for me because it's Grammarly, it will actually score what I'm writing, and it will immediately help me to correct that writing. So I'm using artificial intelligence not only to generate the ideas, but to improve what I am writing, and I can, with one click, correct that writing and keep on going. So it really helps me move faster in doing the work and writing the prose that I'm after. Now, if you are working on building something more complete, let's say you're an author and you're writing books all the time, you want something that's going to really facilitate that longer writing cycle for you. There are other tools that help with creating marketing plans and doing lots of copy. Copy.ai is another one of those tools that you might look at for considering that. You can get started with most all of these tools completely for free. And if you determine that it is working well for you, you can come back and add a subscription up the level of capability that it has for working with those ideas. Really fantastic. But let's keep going, because ChatGPT, as we mentioned earlier, is one of those tools that I use an awful lot for learning and all sorts of capabilities. Well, there are plugins for tools like ChatGPT that enable you to jumpstart that creativity. Perhaps one of the challenges that you have is you know that these AI tools are great, you want to use them more, but you sit down and you suffer the white page problem with the prompt. Well, there's a really great plugin called Web Chat GPT that can really help you with that. It extends the functionality and the user interface of ChatGPT. And one of the cool things, not unlike what we saw with Bard a few minutes ago, it gives you a place to start. It gives you some ideas. You can look up all sorts of great ideas before you even get started. So if you're not using Bard and you're used to ChatGPT, well, go grab Web Chat GPT as a plugin, and they're giving you these ideas for where you can get started. It gives you some great inspiration for prompts. You can go in here and it will give you a choice for the prompt. You can drop the prompt right in. I don't even have to type the prompt out, and off we go. We're working and learning with ChatGPT using the prompts. And look, it's a really great tool. It gives us a place to start. Now, if you are trying to find new ways, you can also go out and search. There's many influencers and AI people that are out there sharing all sorts of prompts. If you haven't found a prompt that you need, let me encourage you. There are so many solutions to this. There are many applications out there that are actually providing prompt packs that you can buy. But I think if you do just a little bit of searching, you'll find that what you're looking for is going to be highly specialized depending on what it is that you're trying to do. And if you're looking for some help, some prompting advice, let me encourage you again, go check out some of my videos where I share with you some of the insights about how to build good prompts. There are many systems and frameworks that help you do exactly that. And of course, you can also use generative AI to generate prompts. Here we have in our selection here, you can generate highly functional mid-journey prompts based on your keywords. So don't limit yourself. Use the AI to help you solve the problems that you might be having with AI as well. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about art. We've talked about ideation. We've talked about building prototypes. Man, there's so many great things. And whether you're editing, whether you're trying to get in touch with your audience, whether you're trying to learn something in order to build out the completeness of what it is that you want to share, AI can really help you get through that, whether it's just giving you a jumping off point, building out the existing things that you're doing by refining it, or helping you design the plan for putting together that project. There are ways that you can use these tools to facilitate the entirety of that story. And in fact, look, if I'm honest, I don't use these AI tools enough to help me. I'm using these all day, but there's really still a lot of room and opportunity for improving on how I am using them. And I continue to really grow how I am using that, but it's really just getting the reminder, hey, go out there and generate the idea, get the art, use it for inspiration. Sometimes just looking at beautiful art can be something that jumpstarts our ideas. And if you can use these tools to generate ideas, boy, the opportunities are really endless. And so let's come back to this idea of a prototype. When we talk about generating art, did you know that not only can you generate the art, but you can use art generation to build an interface? So if I go back to CoPilot, if I go back to Designer, I can actually come in here and do an image generation that does a full design. So not only is it going to create the imagery that is necessary, it's actually going to create the complete design. So we'll just take the recommendation here. We'll do an Instagram post about using AI to get work done. And let's see what it's going to generate for us. It's not just going to help us in illustrating the idea with an image. It's actually going to compose the text that is being used. It's going to generate the overall style and view of the post. And then I can go through here and choose from a whole collection of examples to find the thing that I want. I like this one that's got the reflection of the person touching. I like the idea of sort of the circuit board brain that is really illustrative of working between humans and computers. We have this concept of the gears. And what's wonderful about this is it's not just a single idea. There are multiple different ways that we can take this. It's also using multiple different styles in bringing that together. And not only is it giving us multiple styles, it's also created an image that plays. So this is actually a brief video that is animated, which can also do a better job of attracting attention for your post. So we can go through here and we can simply pick an idea that we like. I like this moving one, and I'm going to customize it, and it will put that on the page for us to begin editing and working through. Really, I mean, this is not only the prototype of the idea of the message, but a prototype of the full post. You could actually take this and use it as the social media post just unto itself, and all I did was type a few words on the page. Absolutely amazing and incredibly valuable for finding ways to communicate with others. So Really cool ideas. And if you're into doing application development, one of the things that we've been working on in the technology space over the last 10 years or so is not only do you have a tool that can do something cool with a computer, but it has a friendly and usable interface to work with so that you can work through those ideas faster. You can even have AI tools generate prototypes of user interfaces, whether that's inspirational, whether that is trying to get a place to start from. It is now possible for a single person to fully develop an entire application, including the user interface and the code behind. And in fact, as we'll talk about more later, you can do it with no code solutions as well. You don't necessarily even have to know how to write code. And this is where I want to talk to you a little bit about where this intersects with the mistakes framework. When you are trying to kickstart a project and get going, AI is really incredible for this. It's not just in terms of having the ideas and building a prototype and figuring out who your customer is. It is all of the things around executing that idea, whether it is supporting the idea, whether it's helping your users and solving their problems and helping them understand how to use the tools, or simply executing. Because when you are putting together a project, there's so many things that have to be done. So not only are you able to start the process with AI, but you're able to kickstart the providing a solution to a user, to a customer, to another business. You can use the AI to build the plan for support and even use it to help organize or annotate those support documents and information that you need to use in sharing that tool with a user. There's really so many possibilities here. I think limitless possibilities is not an overreach, both from a creativity standpoint, from a getting started standpoint, from a continuing to improve and iterate standpoint, and from all the way to the end, supporting and continuously growing and improving what it is that you're doing. Continuous learning and innovation are part of the story, and AI can really help us to do that very well. I hope that this has really been helpful for you in understanding what's possible. There are so many great things that we can do together. The other part of the story that I really want to share with you is that if you are knowing that these AI tools are out there, but you're still struggling with ways to really get started, I have some tools that can help you. I've started the Business Pro online course at AI Mistakes so that you can use the mistakes framework to better understand, work on your program, your project, your delivery, whatever it is that you want to build. The mistakes framework helps you think through the steps that are necessary in putting together that solution and doing it well. Let me encourage you to go check out the course. Take a look at what's available. If you're interested, even just a little bit, don't hesitate to sign up for the wait list. I've got another iteration of the program that I'll be launching later this month. And if you're even a little bit interested, I'm going to provide some additional information about what's in the course. We'll talk a lot about the bonuses that are available if you sign up for the course and how the course may or may not be a great fit for you. If you're not into online courses that involve a group of people working together and interacting with me live, I do also have some offerings around coaching. Please go check out my page on coaching. If you are interested or curious, perhaps you like what you see here and there's something that you'd like to know more about. Could be a great idea for a video or a presentation. I would love to hear from you about what you'd like to learn about. I have a lot of fun putting these things together and talking to the solutions that are available. And let's work together. We could have some really great things that come out of the idea or the question that you send my way. AI is going to shift into a mode of great expansion over the next year. There are so many new capabilities that are being put in the hands of users. Just a couple of days ago, I read an article about Microsoft adding the CoPilot button as a standard option on the keyboard. So in the next year, when you go to the store to buy a brand new Windows-based laptop, there will be a button for CoPilot on the keyboard that will launch this frame that we talked about earlier today. This sidebar will come up automatically at the push of a button and let you work with these tools. much more readily. And Microsoft is working to integrate this into all of their software and tooling, and I really do think that that is a good solution for them to bring together. If you would like to know more about how to maximally use these tools, the reality is using AI tools isn't just about knowing that you need to use the AI, it's knowing how to use them most effectively to solve the real problem. So look for some more updates from me on those capabilities that I'm really showcasing and sharing new ways with you. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Have a great start to your new year and go make some mistakes.